Section 1, a necessary correction. Before we go any further, we need to correct something. Rastafari is often spoken about as though it were a single unified belief system. One doctrine, one theology, one interpretation, one practice. That picture is inaccurate. It may be convenient, it may make explanation easier, but it doesn't reflect reality. From its earliest days, Rastafari developed through reasoning, not decree, through conversation, not councils, through community, not hierarchy. There was no founding synod, no authorized catechism, no single teacher whose word closed the discussion. What emerged instead was a shared orientation grounded in scripture, dignity, exile, and resistance, but expressed in multiple streams. To miss this is to misunderstand Rastafari at the most basic level, because when people say Rastafari believes, they are often flattening positions that were never meant to be identical. Rastafari is not one thing and never claimed to be. Why diversity was inevitable. This diversity was not a flaw. It was a natural outcome of how Rastafari emerged. Remember, the conditions we traced earlier: colonial fragmentation, broken lineage, suppressed education, oral transmission, scripture reasoned communally. Under those conditions, uniformity would have required control, and control was precisely what Rastafari resisted. Instead of enforcing agreement, Rastafari preserved participation. People reasoned scripture together. They challenged one another. They disagreed openly. They emphasized different texts. They lived their convictions differently. This meant variation, but also vitality. Where colonial religion often demanded submission, Rastafari insisted on engagement. That insistence shaped everything that followed. The name and the movement, Rastafari Makonnen. It is here and only here that the name must be addressed properly. The word Rastafari comes from the name Rastafari Makonnen. Before his coronation in 1930, Haile Selassie I was known by this name. Ras is the title in Amharic meaning head, chief, or prince. Tafari was his given name. So linguistically, Rastafari refers to those associated with Rastafari. That much is historical fact. What that association means, however, is where interpretation begins. What that association means, however, is where interpretation begins, because Rastafari did not arrive at a single conclusion about Haile Selassie, even from the beginning. Some saw him as divine, some saw him as messianic, some saw him as symbolic kingship, some saw him as a sign rather than fulfillment. What united these views was not agreement about Selassie's nature, but agreement about what his coronation represented. For peoples whose dignity had been denied, the crowning of a black king traced to ancient lineage, publicly recognized and famed in biblical language, was seismic. It disrupted the colonial story. It said kingship did not begin in Europe. It said black sovereignty was not an invention. It said scripture had not forgotten Africa. That moment mattered, even for those who later reasoned differently about its meaning. The emergence of the streams. From this point, distinct streams began to take place, not denominations in the Western sense, but orientations, ways of reasoning scripture, ways of living identity, ways of resisting Babylon under different pressures. These streams did not arise from schism, they arose from context. To understand them, we need to understand how they came to be. The major streams and how they came about. Right. Naibingi, memory before movement. Naibingi is often described as the oldest streams, but is better understood as the most continuous. In the earliest decades, Rastafari had no institutions, no protection, and no public legitimacy. What sustained it was ritual memory, small gatherings, scripture read aloud, drums sounded slowly, chants repeated over time. Naibingi preserved Rastafari not by organizing it, but by holding it. It carried the earliest chants, the earliest reasoning styles, the slowest rhythms of devotion. This is why Naibing is often regarded with particular respect. Not because it claims authority, but because it remembers what came before structure. Bobo Ashanti, order under pressure. Bobo Ashanti emerged later in a period of increased scrutiny and hostility. By the mid-20th century, Rastafari was being watched, policed, and misrepresented. Some reasoned that holiness required visible order. Bobo Ashanti developed around priestly identity, codified dress, moral discipline, communal separation. This was not rigidity for its own sake, it was an attempt to protect seriousness under pressure. Where Nyabingi preserved memory, Bobo Ashanti preserved boundary. 12 Tribes of Israel, engagement without dilution. The 12 Tribes of Israel formed in a context of increased travel, education, and dialogue. Some reasoned that engagement did not require abandonment. This stream emphasized personal Bible study, individual responsibility, education and outreach, explicit engagement with Jesus Christ. Symbolic identification with the 12 tribes offered structure without hierarchy. Where Bobo Ashanti emphasized separation, 12 tribes explored presence. Unity without uniformity. These streams are not competing answers. They are different responses to different pressures. How do we preserve memory? How do we protect holiness? How do we engage without being absorbed? Rastafari unity is not found in uniform agreement. It's found in shared scripture, shared dignity, shared resistance to Babylon, shared seriousness about life before Jah. This is unity without uniformity. Fragile, but real. Names, titles, and the language of identity. Language matters deeply within Rastafari. Names are not slang. They are positioning. Bingy Man, Naya Bingy Man. The term Bingy Man refers specifically to alignment with Nyabingi tradition. It signals continuity, grounding, and ritual seriousness. It's not a casual label and not universal. Using it rightly requires understanding. Idren and Sistren. Idren and Sistren express kinship beyond biology. To use them is to recognize shared struggle and shared reasoning. They resist isolation. I-man and I. I is not linguistic play. It expresses relational identity, resisting fragmentation between self, community, and Jah. Elder and priest. Titles emerge from life, not appointment. An elder is recognized through consistency, maturity, and responsibility. Authority here is earned, not imposed. Groundation, reasoning made flesh. If Rastafari does not center authority in councils or creeds, where does meaning take shape? In groundation. Groundation is not a meeting or service, it is a communal reasoning. Scripture is read, chants may rise, silence may fall. Authority comes from knowledge, consistency, maturity, trust. Groundation does not aim at closure. It aims at attention. Sound and rhythm order the body and the space. This is embodied reasoning. The body discipline, and live faith. The body is a vessel, not disposable, not incidental. Discipline is care. Appearance is commitment, not display. Faith is not merely believed, it is inhabited. The herb, sacrament, reasoning, and misunderstanding. The herb is understood within Rastafari as sacramental, not recreational, not compulsory, not casual. It is associated with prayer, chant, scripture, reasoning, and its meaning is located in context and devotion, not chemistry. Outsiders misread it by applying external categories. The real question is not permission, it is meaning. Rastafari is not casual with the sacred. Okay, and we're coming to the end of chapter 2. So, Rastafari is not one thing. It is a living tradition, reasoned under pressure, expressed in different forms, held together by seriousness. Now we are ready to step back further, to understand the world Rastafari is responding to. That means speaking out about Babylon and Zion, not as slogans, but as ways of seeing. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our little journey into Rastafarianism, and look forward to seeing you in chapter 3. Thank you.